So cast shadows, I think of them as the shadow that is being cast onto the ground, but really how they're made is by the object itself. The object is blocking the light, so the light can't reach past that part, and then you get this shadow that's falling on the ground plane. Now, sometimes your ground plane is nice and flat, like you're seeing here, and other times it's curved or rolling depending on the surface that you're seeing. There are two important rules when you're trying to replicate a cast shadow. The first one is that cast shadows are almost always darkest the closer they are to the object. The farther away they get, the more pale they get. They're also sharp shadows as opposed to a form shadow, but they are sharpest closest to the form, and then as they move away, they start to get blurry edged. The size, the shape, the thickness or thinness of your shadow really depends on the angle of the light. So in order to get an accurate cast shadow, you always have to be able to identify where the light source is coming from. That's one of the key things to making realistic drawings is you've got to identify, hey, where's that light coming from? How is it shining on there? That'll tell you so much about the object. It'll give you the midtones, and it'll give you the form shadow and the cast shadow. Now, the other day we were talking a little bit about reflected light. Reflected light is light that bounces onto the form shadow actually in particular, but I just wanted to show you that too while we're talking about cast shadows. As a reminder, the form shadow is the shadow that's on the object itself. So here I am putting a red cloth near there, and I'm just bouncing red right into that form shadow. But you could bounce white into that form shadow. You could bounce another color in too. It helps me in my work to always look for a clear light side, a clear form shadow side of an object, and then having a distinctive cast shadow. I feel like that is what gives work volume right away. You can paint something, an object that doesn't have a distinctive form shadow or cast shadow, but it is so much harder to pull off, in my opinion. No matter what your object is, your cast shadow is going to mimic that same shape as the object, but it may be distorted. We're going to look at some distorted cast shadows in just a moment. Cast shadows occur whenever there is a light source, and they're especially noticeable when there is a single light source. So yes, when you go outside and there's the sunshine, the sun is a light source. And you can see here that there is some distortion happening. I'm just up against the side of my house, and I was playing with cast shadows. So we know by the laws of nature that both my left hand and right hand are the same size, yet with distortion and with shadows, you're seeing that one hand is way huge, and then I have this little tiny miniature hand for the other one. So again, look at the shape of the object you're looking at. In this case, I'm looking at that tree. And then look at the cast shadow. It's a little bit distorted. It's a shorter version of the tree falling onto the ground. It's a cast shadow there. Here we're looking at the cast shadow from a bicycle, and you can see it's distorted. The tires aren't circles anymore. They're ovals, and they're long because the sun was low in the sky when I took that image. Again, the takeaways from this is that I want you to realize that cast shadows are darkest the closer they are to the object, and they're sharp nearest the object, but they fade as they move away. And not only do they fade, they blur.